Before I start this video, I just want to say that there are going to be spoilers for both Homestuck and the Homestuck Epilogues in here. With that being said, enjoy the video! Okay, so I just finished the Homestuck Epilogues, and let me say, I hated them. I think these screenshots from the text will sum it up quite well. There are a lot of reasons why, which I'm going to delve deep into, but first let me say that this video is not an attack on the original 7 acts, plus credits, of Homestuck. This is an attack on the epilogue. It all started on 4/13 of this year, when the prologue to the epilogue came out. At the time, I was at my friend's house along with another friend, and we were in Homestuck cosplay. I can distinctly remember sitting on my friend's porch and reading the prologue in character while tears were streaming down my face. But let me tell you, that was just about the last time I cried for the story. At first, I was very emotional about the writing, like the fact that Dave Cat and Dirk Jake weren't canon, or John hearing Dad Egbert's kitchen timer go off. But then I started to begin to resent the epilogue, and that hatred kept me from getting emotional about it. But while on my friends on that ironically windy Saturday, something made me and my friends rather nervous, and that something was the tags. I'm not going to read them to you, but let me tell you, they were bad. If you've read the epilogue, then you know exactly what I'm talking about, and if you haven't, save yourself the time and trauma by trusting me when I say they were bad. However, me and my friends nervously brushed them off by saying it was probably just Hussy messing with us, but we were never 100% certain what they meant. In any case, there were quite a few things that made the Homestuck epilogue so terrible, and I'll be sharing a few with you guys today. Firstly, the characters, arguably the most important part of a story. However, almost all of the kids and trolls we've come to know and love are just so out of character. For example, I love Dave with all my heart, but half the time when he was speaking, I was like, shut up! Like, stop using ship names for everyone. It's totally breaking the fourth wall when it isn't meaning to, and I hate it. Honestly, I really didn't like what happened to Dave's character. He was just completely reduced to 2 character traits, Obama and the economy. Similar things happened with the rest of the kids, and sometimes those character traits weren't even, like, the ones they had in the original comic. Like, I legit think they just pulled random character traits out of a hat, like, oh, this slip of paper I pulled out says slut, so I guess we'll make Jade want to have sex with everyone. Overall, Jade's character was one of the biggest downgrades, right along with Jane. Like, who are you two, and what did y'all do with my sweet sciencey plant girl and my innocent cake-baking kiddo who love their friends very dearly? I'm not even joking. It makes 0 sense for Jane to want to turn into this xenophobic wannabe Donald Trump. Like, you cannot convince me that Janie would ever use Jake like that. Speaking of Jake, I just want to reinforce this in case anyone forgot, but reverse character development is not development. Jake went from a sensitive guy trying to be a little more self-confident to a gullible idiot whose only personality trait is his ass. He was just used as a comic relief character, and his little reverse arc, I guess you could call it, reminded me a lot of a certain Lance McLean. I also hated Dirk, who was an amazing character pre-epilogue, but got screwed by the epilogue. I hated how he just, became God? What the heck was that all about? Also, a little off topic, but narrators should not be able to control the characters in the story, like how Dirk was doing. Narrators are just there to explain and show what is happening and have no effect on the plot. I didn't really know how to feel about Roxy's little arc in Meet, because part of me is like, yay, trans rep, and then another part of me is like, I'm pretending the epilogue didn't happen, and they're kind of going back and forth in my head. I kind of feel like Roxy being trans is a little out of character because Roxy's always been a particularly feminine character. But I feel like if the exact same arc was used for a different character and a different story, I would have enjoyed it. So anyways, getting into the actual story. I hated the politics part of it. If I wanted to read about politics, I would have pulled up just about any news site because that's all people seem to care about these days. I came here to read Homestuck and have a good time, not be bombarded with politics. But what I hated even more than the stupid Carcat and Jane election was the weird abrupt ending to it. It was like Hussy was getting bored of it and ended it quickly so that he didn't have to deal with it. And as someone who enjoys reading and writing, let me tell you, it's a major rule of writing a story that you should never stop a subplot just because you're bored. Your reader can and will be able to tell how rushed the ending is. Something else I really hated was the John Resi part. John Resi, if you don't know, is a ship between John and Terezi. Honestly, although the writing for those parts felt the most natural of all the relationships, if you really think about it, it's so unnatural and overall just bad writing. Firstly, Terezi has spent goodness knows how long out here in the furthest ring searching for Vriska, and gives John this whole talk about soulmates or whatever, and it's heavily hinted, if not explicitly stated, that she's referring to her and Vriska. But then, 2 minutes later, she's having sex with John in the back of his dad's car, and then John is trying to confess his love for her. But in this house, we don't say I love you after the first date, if you can even call it a date. It was literally just John and Terezi having sex in a car. Then John kind of dies on Terezi, which is weird because John is basically the main character and he had a stupid and uneventful death. Then Terezi's totally out of character, and that's when I stopped liking her. So then, shortly after that, I finished the meat epilogue. And let me tell you, it took me 5 days, and it wasn't even so bad that it's good. No, it was it's so bad that it's good, but then it just keeps getting worse. So now it's so bad that it's ruining the original Homestuck for me. When Dave and Carcat finally kissed, I actually hated it because it felt so unnatural. And people who know me in real life know that I love Dave Cat so much. But the Homestuck epilogue was so bad that it ruined even Dave Cat for me. And it basically did the same thing with Roxygen and Dirk Jake. Luckily, I've been able to undo the damage that's been done, with the help of a really cute Dave Cat headcanon that I developed with one of my friends. But anyways, my point was that you could see why I was a little nervous to read Candy. I didn't want it to ruin anything else for me, but I'd rather read it myself than hear spoilers about it from other people, because I have this weird thing where I hate it when other people have information that I don't. But I decided the best way to go about reading it was to do it as quickly as possible, like ripping off a Band-Aid. And hey, it can't be any worse than meat, can it? Well, my friends, the answer to that question is yes. Yes, it can. So I started reading Candy, and I'm like, hey, maybe this isn't too bad. Maybe this is actually good? Boy, was I wrong. So it's slowly getting slightly worse as I go along, but I think the major tipping point was this. Also, I literally threw my iPad and recoiled at 5 feet from it when I found out that Jake and Jane and, I guess, Gamzee named their child Tavros. What the heck? Why Tavros? I mean, in my opinion, Tav is the best troll. But other than Gamzee, Jane and Jake don't really have a significant attachment to Tavros, unless you include Tavros Sprite, who, might I mention, was not brought up once during the epilogue. But anyways, what really made me recoil was the fact that I ship Gamtav, and it's really weird that Gamzee now has a kid with the same name as the guy that I ship him with. Another thing about the Candy epilogue is that all the characters are even more out of whack than in the meat epilogue. I mean, the only redeemable character is Vriska. You know it's bad when the only redeemable character is Vriska. And by that, I don't mean Rose and Kanaya's daughter. That whole part was really weird, and I hated her. Especially the fact that she and the other kids received their names before they were 13. Also, the elephant in the room that I'm ignoring, other than Harry Anderson, but he was really boring and not worth my time, was that Obama was a major character at the end of Candy. He freaking kills Dave because I guess that's a thing that can happen, and it's also implied that he had sex with Dirk. The whole thing was so dumb that it made me laugh, but seriously, Hussy? That's a little bit too far. Okay, so overall I hated both of the stories because they sucked and everyone in the story was out of character. Also, we never got proper closure or an ending or anything like that. Honestly, the epilogues just created more plot holes and unanswered questions. The ends were not tied up at all. We never found out a lot of things, like if Terezi Snapchatted Vriska back. I'm unsure if the epilogue is going to update again, and it's in so many places that it would make sense if it did, but I really hope it doesn't. But then again, if it doesn't update, that's kind of sad, Hussy. Your garbage story does not make any sense, and you kind of wasted your life on a really long comic that was actually good until you decided to ruin it in one fatal swoop. I don't understand the postscripts at all, so if anyone could explain that to me, that would be nice. Also, the whole point of the epilogue was to tie up loose ends pertaining to the defeat of Lord English. However, we just got more questions with no answers and no closure on the Lord English situation at all. Anyways, the epilogue ended in a place where one might think that the story is not complete, but I hope it is, and that we can all just forget about the epilogue forever. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like this video if you hated the Homestuck epilogue, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, I didn't know what to put here, so have this meme I made when I was still at the beginning of the Meat epilogue. Have a nice night, guys. Bye.